The video game we're talking about this week is from Square Enix, the two companies that have combined into one. They were both famous for making role-playing games, and this is indeed a role-playing game, a game called Nier. And it is an action RPG in the sense that the combat system is all very third-person action-y, button mashing, almost a little Devil May Cry in its approach, in that you are dodging and putting together combos and using magic. And the story is you play a father whose daughter has a mysterious disease that is destroying her, and the town is simultaneously, or the whole land, I should say, is simultaneously being taken over by a strange presence, creatures that are up to no good. And you have to save your daughter by finding the cure to her disease, as well as cleansing the land of evil. And
Subtle storyline.
Yeah, well, it's typical RPG fare,
yeah,
I would say. But the game has a unique look and feel, I think, and you come across a magical book that talks by the name of Grimoire Weiss, and he's kind of this English posh
Cortana.
Yeah, I guess you could say Cortana, but he's got a little more tude than she does.
Yeah.
And
a wise ass.
Yeah. And you can do all kinds of magical attacks.
He's a vice ass.
It's a very, very sort of straightforward RPG in the sense that you get quests and do very mundane things, from killing sheep and getting mutton all the way up to, fighting big bosses. So Dan, tell me what you think of Nier.
I think it's a fantastic game for
Really?
the PlayStation 2.
Oh. So you got me with the...
Yeah. No, actually, I did...
comic bait and switch.
Pointedly, I actually did think it was a fantastic game, but the graphics
Are dated.
are horrible.
Dated.
I mean,
Not horrible.
The artistic idea behind the literally the horsepower in these graphics, the texture. I mean, it just looks. I know. I have replayed Ico and Shadow Colossus, which this game borrows heavily from. Specifically aesthetically, but in many areas.
Yeah, I kept calling his daughter Yorda instead of one of her
the
names.
graphics do not look better than those games. In fact, they might even look worse. But I really detested the character model of the dude.
Yeah. That you play. You get to name him.
Yeah. Horrible. The main guy, the father that is like this punk. I mean, terrible.
Yeah.
But
Goth
I
vampire
really enjoyed the playing of the game. I thought that the combat system was really fun. The use of magic was great. The story got a little bit wonky, but I still kind of dug it. I enjoyed the game. I really did. I was shocked that I did.
Wait, Alex, did you enjoy the game?
Well, I actually enjoyed this a lot better than Final Fantasy 13.
Yeah.
Oof. Yeah, and
Heresy.
I think it had a lot to do with the fact that there weren't as many cutscenes, right? Yeah. And that the action was sort of a little bit more controllable. I felt like with Final Fantasy 13, you get that sort of like spurts of action connected with long, drawn-out watching sequences, which is cool, and that's what that is. But I'm kind of happy to see this sort of like, the Japanese RPG game that I can kind of get behind, because it's less about that. The story is, it was a little convoluted. I mean, it does that super Square Enix thing where it's just like, you're starting and you'll figure out about the world later. You know what I mean? Which is great because you get that sort of immediate tactical, response, but it's a little bit like, I don't really know why my daughter is blah. You know what I mean? Or who is that person who's talking like they know me and I've never met? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I too, like Dan, I mean, I thought the graphics were okay. It didn't bug me too much. I got a little bit bored with the character design of the enemies, and I know there were different versions of that, but it got really boring.
There's not many different kinds of enemies.
It's just a lot of squiggly guys, and it's like,
and then you fight like some wolves.
Yeah,
like
sheep, hat. The metal guys at that one point were pretty cool. But so I got a little bit like, I could see this getting very repetitive deeper into the game unless, You know, and also that first sequence in the game where you sort of go from
Where you're a badass.
yeah, where you go from little character all the way up to big boss guy was super fun. And
You're
I
like,
thought it
I'm
was
level
broken.
30. I've been playing for 2
I thought
minutes.
it was
I'm level
broken.
30.
I know. I was like, this is
what
weird.
save game
I was
is
like,
on
so,
here?
So is this game is cool. Instead of leveling like you level 5 is really powerful.
Yeah.
It's like level like 200 is going to be
yeah,
really
yeah.
powerful.
And
then
I
it did the thing that every game does, where it takes your powers away, and you're like, oh yeah, why didn't I not think that was going to happen?
Yeah. So, but in that realm, you kind of think that they would show you a little bit more of the variety of the game enemies, and they all look the same. So I could, just was like that aesthetic was cool for a minute, and then it got really sort of like more shade, squiggly guys.
Yeah.
But overall, I actually enjoyed the game. You know, I have this. It's really nitpicky, but I'll bring it up. I really don't like when RPGs, when there's little collectible items, and it takes a giant animation cycle to collect it.
Huh.
Like if you want to go get something off of your shelf, it's like this.
Yeah, I hear you.
Magic herb, and you're
What
like,
about the
really?
fact that-
I just want to run through this thing because clearly there's nothing here for me to do RPG-wise. It's like herb, I'm out.
What about the fact that it was a giant glowing?
I know,
It's
I
like
know.
not subtle. You know, I love that. There's
Yeah.
could be use a little subtlety.
What did you guys think?
But it was
of,
fun. I did
What did you
enjoy
think
it.
of? And then you can start off maybe with how it was like normal, and then it was suddenly like 2D. You were like,
Yeah, that was
inside
cool.
into
I like
it.
the inside 2D stuff was really cool.
It almost
yeah.
turns into a platformer.
Yeah, like a
or
and
even top-down. Yeah.
Zelda
Yeah.
style. It was
Yeah.
very Zelda actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that you guys like this game as much as you did. It's one of those games that. Here's my take on this game. It's a game that you will have much more fun with than the game is good.
I agree
You know,
with that.
like the game
Definitely.
isn't a great game, but chances are you'll probably have a lot of fun with it. And that's a weird dichotomy, but it's a perfect example of a game that probably won't score very high in reviews of people scoring it because you have to take away a lot of points for how tedious the game tends to be. Like there's a lot of running back and forth and crossing huge vasts of really blank areas to do things. But you're still in it and you're still wanting to do all those things. And there's something that kept me coming back and there were interesting moments and the fighting was fun. And I mean, there's really odd, crappy things. Like I think his run speed is way too fast.
Way too fast. I was constantly going,
feel like-
squeak, trying to get that corner.
I actually like that. I think that's what made it fun.
Yeah.
But it didn't fit into the world, and like you
Right.
take points away.
Yeah.
But the double jumping too, I could like get places. I was like, I like that I have this amount of control.
Right. Yeah.
Even though it was a weird.
It sticks out like a sore thumb,
Yes.
but you sort of still are enjoying the
Yeah.
game. So it's an interesting. I mean, we all played it on the PS3, and I would say it's something that people probably shouldn't overlook, even though it probably is one of those games where it's like it's getting 6s and you know.
Yeah.
And the score is phenomenal. I thought the music, like I wanted to play to be not hear more music, but be around that music.
Yeah.
And
I
also
think it
wanna
starts
say
off
there was-
really funny too. I was surprised that first little moment where she's yelling at the book.
Oh yeah.
Well, the game is really oddly
vulgar.
profane.
Yeah.
Like-
But it was really cool because I was like, oh, it was like Japanese RPG from Square Enix. I just played Final Fantasy 13, put it in, and all of a sudden I was like, this is fun. I'm interested.
Well, that
in seeing
character
what
comes in later, and
Wish
she's
you
just like
played more Lost
constantly,
Odyssey, but
constantly cussing for no reason.
yes, yeah.
Which is
But
Sailor-
I thought there was
Sailor
also a
Moon.
surprising amount of depth and very simple. The fact that combat is just one button and then magic, I think was one button.
Yeah.
But
Well, you could set
like,
them, yeah.
but like all that magic was really fun, and the boss battles were all really
Yeah, they did a weird
special.
cool thing with timing. Like you had to,
Yeah.
you got it down to
Yeah.
a certain point, and then you had a timer where you had to.
And then even like killing the boar sequence was like I had to really change. I think that's what's fun about it. Is you really had to play a game. It wasn't just spamming a button.
Yeah.
You know, and it was you were really.
But
had
yet
to
on the
think about what
surface,
you're
it
doing.
felt like it was going to be that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, speaking of playing a game,